So now we're going to talk about part 3 of Crisis, which begins with Earth 203, which is the Earth of the Birds of Prey TV series. That's right. We've got Helena Wayne and Huntress, and we've also got Dinah Mayer's Oracle from that TV series, and we can see the red skies on that Earth, and we see Huntress and everything on it basically get demolished by the anti-wave. I want to say anti-monitor for some reason, but the antimatter wave. Wow, I'm not thinking straight. I don't know why. Anyway, we see that happen, and then after that, we go to where they're locating the other Paragons. Cisco showed up. John Diggle showed up by this point. Lila hasn't. Up to this point, Lila wasn't able to tell much to Diggle about what happened to Oliver. But Diggle was upset now that he's found out. And Oliver is dead and gone. But Sarah and Mia and Barry all want to go and use the Lazarus Pit to bring him back. Sarah was brought back from the Lazarus Pit. It had its effects. And so we go from there, and they find the other Paragons, which happen to be Batwoman. Oh, I already mentioned Batwoman and Supergirl in the other video, but Batwoman, Supergirl, Martian Manhunter, Barry Allen, Earth 96 Superman, which is Ray Palmer, Martian Manhunter, and Ryan Chow. None of them know who Ryan Chow is at this point, which is very interesting to me, is that they don't know who that is. And so they go from there, and Iris, Ralph, and Ray go and look for Ryan Troy to tell him he's a Paragon. And that doesn't really go well at first, as you can see. And so they try and convince him that he's a Paragon, and that they have to show that they're superheroes, because he doesn't believe them at first. He thinks they're joking aside. And then he just wants to go back. When he hears the world's ending, he wants to go back with his wife and kid. Who can blame him? I mean, basically, the world's ending. Who wouldn't want to be with their family at a time like that? Well, Iris goes and talks to him and is able to convince him to help out. Anyway, I want to go back to part 1 for a minute. I know this video is part 3, but I just had some thoughts about part 1 that I totally forgot to bring up. So I'm going to go back to it for a minute. First of all, I said I'd get back to Jonathan, young Superboy, Clark and Lois' son. Well, he ends up on another Earth, and he is in 2046 on that Earth, which, if you watch Legends of Tomorrow, in Season 1, there was an episode called Star City 2046 where they met an older version of Oliver Queen. And so they go there, and from there, basically, what they do is they Sarah, Lois, and Brainiac 5 go there. and they are able to save baby Jonathan. And Sarah talks to this version of Oliver who hasn't been through what our Oliver's gone through, doesn't have things like it doesn't know about the multiverse, doesn't have superpowers on his Earth. Basically, what Arrow Season 1 is what this Oliver has been living his whole life. And he's shocked to see Sarah. And so he didn't know that, he thought she was still dead. He thought she was dead. Anyway, we go from there. And now, I know it's confusing, but I'm jumping back to part 3. And in part 3, I'm just getting the thoughts as they come to me. Sorry, everybody. In part 3, they... see. So, right now, Barry, Sarah, and Mia, and Diggle are on a quest to... Sorry, I got myself a little lost there. Sorry, Barry. I think I'm messing up on things. So, but anyway, Barry, Sarah, Oliver. Oh, I goofed up again. I meant Barry, Sarah, John Constantine, and Mia are working on bringing back Oliver. And they go to this Lazarus pit on another Earth, and they basically take out Jonah Hex, who is there, and surprise cameo. He's another character from Legends of Tomorrow, and I know I'm talking lots of Legends stuff. It has nothing to do with the fact I just talked about a Legends thing. And so we go from there, and they are able to bring Oliver back to an extent, except for his soul. And they need to travel to Purgatory to bring his soul back. So they travel to Purgatory. Well, not exactly straight to Purgatory, but we'll get there. And so some of this actually happened in part 2. I just kind of forgot to mention it, which is the whole trying to bring Oliver back from the dead. And at the end of part 2, they do, and I was confused at what part it was for a minute, but it's part 2 that they try to bring him back. They bring him back, but he doesn't have a soul. So they go, in part 3, they go, Barry's not with them at this point. John Diggle is. They go and they meet with Lucifer, which I thought was an interesting part of the crossover. And apparently, obviously, John Constantine and Lucifer know each other. And Constantine then makes a deal with him because he says that Lucifer owes him one. And so he gives Constantine and them a card to go to Purgatory and get Oliver's soul. But as soon as that card fades away, the picture on the card fades away, it's no good, and they'll be stuck there forever. Anyway, they run into a version of Oliver on the island, and... well, they run into Oliver on the island, I should say. And at first he doesn't have his memories, but they're able to quickly jog his memory, and he remembers them. And then out of nowhere, Jim Corrigan, another DC character, shows up. A character known as the Spectre. Yeah, pretty exciting. But he's there to pass on the mantle of Spectre to Oliver, which I really, really liked. I really, really liked that he was there to pass that mantle on to Oliver. Okay, I'm just gonna move on to part 4 from there. I don't want to spoil everything. I mean, I have talked a lot of spoilers, but this is a spoilery review, and if you don't want spoilers, don't watch. Should have mentioned that in the first video, but I'm mentioning it now, so feel free to turn this off and not continue watching any further if you don't want any more spoilers. So, part 4. We go. Oh, I'm forgetting 3. Hold up, rewind. I'm forgetting some important stuff of part 3. Just kidding on the whole part 4 thing. So basically everybody gets back together and Pariah shows up. Anti-monitors hadn't show up anytime there's going to be a disaster that can't be stopped. And so Lila shows up and she's under control by the anti-monitor. I'm not going to get into detail on how that happens. Watch the episode and you'll figure out how Lila gets that way, because there's so much to cover and it's hard to cover every single thing. So I'm realizing that as I'm sitting here, I start thinking of things from other parts that I did not talk about. And I'm sorry, I just didn't think of them. And I'm just talking about what I'm thinking of. I'm going to have a script next time I do this. I think that that's going to help out more. But I don't have a script this time. I'm just going off my head, which tends to mix things up sometimes. So for that, we're going forward. So Anti-Monitor shows up as well, and Earth 1 is destroyed. All the Earths have been destroyed at this point. There's no more Earths left. Only the people on the Waverider are left. Pariah then decides to send our 7 Paragons to the Vanishing Point, which is another Legends of Tomorrow area. And they're destroyed. Everybody on the Waverider is destroyed. So that's part 3. So now on to part 4. It seems like some time's passed. Ryan Chow now has a beard. Choi, I should say. Choi. And he has a beard now. And we got all set. We got the 7 Paragons. Barry's missing. He's been missing for a while, apparently. Turns out he shows up and he's been in the Speed Force all this time. And he immediately wants to go back in the Speed Force because he's like, that's the only way to save anybody. And so basically that's what he does. Meanwhile, Supergirl... So they split up. Supergirl... I forgot to mention an important part of the last one. Lex Luthor kills the Superman of Earth 96 and becomes a Paragon. Yay! We got Lex in the picture now. Anyway, that's not too surprising. Lex, he's got the Book of Destiny, so I guess he can do whatever he wants. So they split up. Lex, Supergirl, and Ryan go to find the Monitor before he becomes the Monitor, to stop him from going to the Anti-Monitor universe so they can save everybody. And Barry, Sarah, Batwoman, and John Jones go back. They go into Speed Force after Oliver shows up and tells them basically that's the only way to go. And so they go into the Speed Force. And I was looking forward to a certain part of the Speed Force, but something topped that, and I'm going to talk about the thing that topped it first, and then I'll talk about what I was looking forward to. It still turned out pretty good, but so we get a surprise cameo, and maybe this is something. Well, I'm going to spoil it, but it's DCEU Flash Ezra Miller Flash meets Grant Gustin Flash, which I thought was amazing. I thought it was amazing that DC Comics let them do that. Anyway, I love that scene, and if you haven't watched Crisis, 1, you probably shouldn't be watching this video unless you like spoilers like I do. 2, definitely watch it, because this is a very fun scene, and it was amazing to see Ezra Miller in the crossover. I just can't say enough. So, like I said, they're in the Speed Force, and while they're in the Speed Force, we get to see Earth 1 Laurel, and we also see Diggle. And Sarah is basically dead. She's not really dead, but she thinks she's dead, some scenario like that. And this isn't really Laurel and Diggle, but I love that we got to see a version of Earth 1 Laurel, even though it really wasn't necessarily Earth 1 Laurel. It was Katie Cassidy. I'm glad that she got to be in this crossover. Anyway, we got to see them, and it was pretty neat. We got to see a lot of fun stuff. Barry runs in there, and they're like, "Who are you?" Because at the time when Sarah died, back in season 3 of Arrow, they didn't know who the Flash was, Laurel nor Diggle. I mean, Diggle had met Barry Allen, but Laurel hadn't really met Barry Allen, or she didn't even, had no idea who the Flash was. So that in itself is basically one of the scenes I thought was kind of fun to see. And then that was one I was really, really looking forward to, because I heard Katie Cassidy was going to be in the crossover, and I was like, wonder how that's going to be, because she's not Earth 2 Laurel. And so then I had heard Earth 1 Laurel was going to be in there, and I was like, okay, we can back that up. Anyway, we go from there, and we got Batwoman, who was talking to a version of Oliver and Ray from season 3 as well of Arrow, and they're talking about how Oliver's Green Arrow, and how Laurel tried to shut Ray up, but it didn't work, and how Ray thinks that Felicity is blindsided by Oliver, and thinks that Oliver is a criminal that should be brought to justice. And Batwoman is there, and they're like, "Who are you?" And basically, this is in the Speed Force, and Barry pulls Batwoman out of there. Then we see Oliver, Kara, and John talking. I'm just talking about these in the way I'm thinking about them, not exactly the way they happened. And it's back at the Invasion crossover, which I really, really like that they went back to Invasion. And we got some of that. We got to see some of that. That was fun and exciting to see some of that. Anyway, we go from there, and Barry's able to get everybody reunited, and then they go and meet up with Supergirl, Ryan, and Lex, and they stop Lex's evil plan, that bad guy plan that he's got. And then they go to the Dawn of Time, where they fight the Anti-Monitor. Oliver comes back as a Spectre, and, well, this is a pretty huge situation. They fight. Oliver sacrifices himself again to save the universe. Basically, what happens is amazing, and I think that this was probably one of my favorite parts of the crossover. I had another scene that I really liked in part 4. No, part 5. I'm really jumping ahead of myself, but it's in part 5. It's hard to think of when everything happened as I'm sitting here trying to think of it. So Oliver, as Oliver's dying, we can see that Earth's being redone, basically, and so they've got Earth back. And now we're going to move into part 5, but I'm going to take a little break real quick, and you won't even notice, but I'll be right back. Okay, I'm ready to talk about part 5. Ooh, I feel much better now. So now, we're on part 5, like I was saying, and part 5 begins with Kara waking up, and Alex is talking to her. And she nearly fries Alex. Which we haven't seen since part 1 of the crossover. Part 1. And then Kara realizes that Earth's back. But she doesn't notice any of the changes that have been made just yet. She gets a call from Naynell, who is the Dreamer character, and I don't know much about her. Personally, I just watched Crisis. I'm not fully caught up with all the Arrowverse stuff, but I understood Crisis pretty well, I felt like. Lex Luthor is being named the Nobel Prize winner. That's right, Lex has won the Nobel Prize, which to me is what? What's going on here? Well, he had the Book of Destiny, so he kind of put himself in that situation. Anyway, I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry. Anyway, Kara goes to attend and comes to figure out that everybody's applauding Lex Luthor, and she doesn't understand why, because Lex isn't a good guy. So then she goes back to the DEO, where she sees Alex again, and Alex tells her that Lex is running things at the DEO. What? He's taken over the DEO, basically the place that Supergirl works from? That's right, he has. And then John Jones shows up, and is able to restore Alex's memories. And Kara goes on a mission to stop Weather Witch, which is a Flash villain. And Flash shows up as well. And they're like, what are you doing on my Earth? What are you doing on my Earth? And basically come to find out that their Earths have merged. I love this cameo made here by the person who wrote Crisis on Infinite Earths, Marv Wolfman, which I thought was amazing. When I heard the name Marv, I'm like, is that? Oh my word, that is. I mean, I don't really know him outside of his work and being credited for stuff. So I had to think for a minute, is that who I think it is? And it was. It was Marv Wolfman, who had written the original Crisis on Infinite Earths comic. So we wouldn't have this crossover without him and all the people that put their time and effort behind it, which I would like to personally thank, even though, I'm just a fan, but maybe one day I'll get a chance to act on one of those shows. It's a dream of mine. But going on from there, they sign a thing for him, and they ask, "How long have we been working together?" And he's like, "Oh, you've always been working together. You're usually with a legend and Green Arrow, and Batwoman even joined in last year." And so they're kind of going, "Okay, this is a bit weird." Well, meanwhile, Sarah Lance finds herself back in Star City. And she doesn't even know how she got there. She's just walking around on the street going, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of lost. And so going from there, she contacts Ray, and goes over to the bar that they were playing game earlier on and meets up with Ray, and Martian Manhunter shows up. Ray doesn't remember anything about the crossover in general, and I love how they mention that they're in a crossover, because that's kind of breaking the fourth wall. And she's like, "I promised my other legends that they wouldn't have to be involved in another crossover." Well, I found that interesting too. I really, really loved it, and I thought it was great. But Sarah is then, after talking to Ray and Martian Manhunter, goes to the Arrow area. The Arrow bunker, to see if she can find Oliver, because she thinks, Oliver should be alive now, but he's not. And we see Diggle, Dinah Drake, and Renee, and they have just figured out from Martian Manhunter that Oliver's gone, which I find Diggle's having a very hard time with, because he wasn't there either time that Oliver died. So he feels like he didn't get to say goodbye, and it really takes a toll on him. Meanwhile, they figure out there's this giant Beeble, which is a giant plushy toy, attacking the city. And this character's actually showed up on Legends before, Beeble has, and it was a funny episode, and I'm trying to remember everything from it, but there's just so many episodes, and I'm currently rewatching all the Arrowverse show, so trying to jog my memory there isn't easy. I'm not going to sneak an episode or two of the future Legends stuff and Flash stuff. Anyway, we go from there, and they fight Beeble, and it's like McRory's in the middle of a book signing, which I gotta talk about Mick for a minute before we get to the book signing. I love that they made him into a book author. I also liked that he was the only one that was able to calm down baby Jonathan. I really, really, really liked it. His monitor had to repeat himself like 7 times. That was amazing to me. And so, yeah, some pretty awesome stuff going on there. And anyway, Beeble is attacking, and so Mick's book signing is interrupted, and so he's able to join in and join the fight. Using his fire gun, and you've got Ray, and you've got Supergirl there, and Flash, And then all of a sudden Batwoman shows up to join the fight. And Sarah is on the monitor with Dinah, and they're monitoring the whole situation, talking to him through the monitor. And Sarah's shocked to see Mick there, and Mick mentions the book signing was ruined, and so he's there to stop Beeble. And Batwoman shows up, surprisingly, and, well, come to figure out Beeble's just a distraction so a guy can rob a bank. I don't remember the guy's name. Anyway, later, Nashwell shows up, Pariah. He shows up again. Last time he showed up wasn't so good. I haven't really talked much about him, but up to this point, he had released the anti-monitor. He woke up at Star Labs. Caitlin was doing medical on him, and basically that's... And then Caitlin got her memory back by Martian Manhunter and figured out that Nash was involved in releasing the anti-monitor. Anyway, Nash shows up and he mentions that the anti-monitor isn't gone because there's antimatter still. And so basically they get ready for another fight. Meanwhile, Barry and Sarah, this is one of my favorite scenes of the crossover, and you know, I don't really want to go into it too much, but I really, really love the dynamic in this scene. Sarah talks about her and Laurel climbing this tree as kids and how she would always beat Laurel, but then she thinks that Laurel was actually the one that beat her. Basically, the point of this scene is Sarah's basically saying there's no one left that really knows her before she became the character she is now, before she became the Canary and before she became White Canary. There's nobody left that knows her, knew her from that time. Laurel's gone, Oliver's gone, her dad, Quentin Lance, is gone. And so she feels like she doesn't really have anything tying her present day. Then they are attacked just after the scene by these shadow demons. And so they fight the shadow demons, and the monitor shows back up. Ray and Ryan come up with the idea of shrinking the monitor. And so in the end, they shrink the monitor. And after that happens, we get to see other Earths that have come into existence. All the Arrowverse stuff's now on Earth Prime, which means everybody's on one Earth from the Arrowverse. And then Earth 2 is where the new Stargirl TV series is happening. And then we see the Titans Earth, and we see all these other Earths that got restored. I really love the cameos in last bit there that we got to see. And then we get a Green Lantern Earth cameo. Oa, to be specific, but it's still Green Lanterns. That's a pretty big deal. Which is, they're doing a Green Lantern series on HBO Max. I do not know very many details about that right now. So, yeah. And Oliver's narrating this at this point. And then we go from there to the graveside type, well, not graveside, tribute thing that they're doing for Oliver. And we get our somewhat of a Justice League. We get Batwoman, we get Black Lightning, White Canary, Martian Manhunter, Supergirl, Superman, and the Flash. And I do have to say something about this crossover and Young Justice and everywhere I've seen Black Lightning right now. I am not a fan of Black Lightning. To me, he comes off of now. It's nothing to do with the actors. I don't know if it's the writing. I don't know what it is with these shows, but in both Young Justice, the Black Lightning TV, in all three, Young Justice, Black Lightning, and the Arrowverse, which is the Black Lightning TV show as well. I think the guy's a jerk. I have not gotten to like Black Lightning. I liked him before they started in season 2 of Young Justice, before they really got into him. And then after that, when they got to season 3, he became annoying. He just became one of those that he seems to think he's better than everybody else. And it's not that he doesn't care about what he's doing or whatever. He just comes across so rude. And maybe that's just my reading of it, but I just can't get behind his character right now. Maybe in the future that will change. Maybe I'll be a huge Black Lightning fan years to come. I used to think I liked Black Lightning, but a lot of the depictions I've seen of him recently have made me question whether or not I really like the character or not. That said, that doesn't mean there's not people out there that like him. And I don't think he's totally selfish. I mean, he cares. He quit the league in Young Justice because of kid's death, and he can't handle that. But he just comes off jerky to me, and that's not okay with me. So let's move on from there. I love the ending, though. We get Gleek. That's right, Gleek. If you ever watch Super Friends, the Wonder Twins. And yeah. I mean, we don't get the Wonder Twins, but we get Gleek. Wonder Twins, I hear, though, I'm not going to confirm it because I don't really know for sure, but I heard they were in the original scripts for Crisis. So we might have had the Wonder Twins at one point. Anyway, I'm going to take a little break, and then I'm going to come back here and talk about Green Arrow and the Canaries in just a second. So next week, we get the Green Arrow and Canaries episode, which I'm personally excited for, and I'm going to see if we can get a description for that. So we're going to talk about the Green Arrows and Canaries description, and I'm going to talk about how excited I'm for this. It's the year 2040 in Star City, and Mia Queen has everything she ever wanted. However, when Laurel and Dinah suddenly show up in her life again, things take a shocking turn, and her perfect world is appended. Laurel and Dinah are tracking a kidnapping victim with direct ties to Mia, and they need her help, knowing it will all change everything. Mia can't help but be a hero, and she, Laurel, and Dinah stood up once again to save the city. And I really, really love this description, and I've watched the trailer, and I love the trailer for this episode. I think I'm super excited for it. So I'm excited to see the three ladies team up. I'm excited to see what it brings. We're going to see Dinah singing, which is something that's completely new. And somehow Mia gets her memories back from a reading from Laurel. Well, that's what I gathered from the trailer. And that's what I'm going to leave you with for now. I will be talking Green Arrow and the Canaries next week. Sometime. Probably Friday or Saturday, but I will make the video when I make it. Anyway, thank you for joining me for this video, and hopefully I can learn some more stuff to make these videos better. But for now, I do not know how to do images. I do not know how to do any of that, so I'm just going with what I've got. Coming up next, though, I do have another video coming right up after this. I am going to do a video on my Arrow action figures and some Bat Family action figures. That's right. So, keep an eye open. Another video coming right